Explain to me your experience on January 4th.
Well, I came up here to just see what was what, and I heard a noise, an aircraft. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So it was a clear, starry night. So I went to my skylight, opened it, stuck my head out, looked around. Nothing. No lights, nothing at all.
As an airplane enthusiast, Neil Aird has spent his retirement tracking aircrafts across North America. But even he was stumped by what he saw that night. And he's not alone. Over the past few weeks, the number of sightings of the plane has grown in the Kingston, Ontario area. Most of the talk happening on social media, including Twitter, Facebook, and a lengthy thread on Reddit from curious residents. But now Aird thinks he has solved the mystery.
And I thought, there's no sign of it. And then at the very bottom, I had a little logo of a Pilatus PC-12, which is a Swiss-built plane, RCMP, C, Charlie, Golf, Mike, Papa, Bravo. And I said, oh, it's the RCMP. They must be doing a little surveillance. So
the RCMP would not confirm or deny if the mystery plane belonged to them, telling Global News to maintain the integrity of our investigations and operations. The location of our aircraft is not disclosed. We therefore have no additional information.
Next question, please.
Pierre Poulin de Radio-Canada. My question is for Minister
Pierre Poulin, Radio-Canada.
In Kingston, that there was never any threat, any threat to the public in Kingston. Why then were there surveillance aircraft by the RCMP?
This is not obviously on the subject of our meeting, but I think we're probably near the end of the questioning on that topic. The RCMP and its policing partners right across the country in dealing with public safety and national security are constantly vigilant about every type and source of threat that could compromise public safety or compromise national security. They have obviously been hard at work on this particular set of issues in Kingston for a considerable length of time. They have worked in close collaboration with a number of policing and security partners. In this particular case, the agencies involved, in addition to the RCMP, were the Kingston Police, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, the Canada Border Services Agency, the Ontario Provincial Police, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States, and an organization called FinTrack, which is the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre of Canada, which examines large-scale flows of dollars and so forth. The agencies work in seamless collaboration with each other. They are vigilant. They endeavor to know everything they need to know about what a potential threat might be and the status of that threat, and they take the appropriate steps to make sure that the country is safe and the Canadians are safe. And it's that whole team and the teamwork approach that made sure in these circumstances that the public was safe and secure at all times.
Thank you. Do you know at this point if it was just two lone wolves or they were tied to some larger groups?
At this stage, the investigation is just beginning. As of this morning, one set of charges were laid. The process is just too early to speculate. But police and security agencies are very clear that the situation has been neutralized and under control, and Canadians can be confident in Kingston and elsewhere across the country that they are indeed safe and secure.
Thank you.
Let me begin by thanking everyone for their cooperation and patience yesterday during the significant police presence in your community. I want to assure you that there is no threat to the public safety at this time, and we took every possible measure to mitigate any potential threat at the time of arrest. Yesterday's operation was conducted in a manner to protect citizens and police. I acknowledge that there has been a delay in communicating with the public on the nature of the threat and the arrests. It is imperative that we follow the appropriate judicial processes, engage with the community, and ultimately ensure the integrity of the investigation. I am now in a position to confirm a few details with you. Earlier today, the RCMP charged one young person with the following criminal code offenses: knowingly facilitating a terrorist activity, contrary to Section 83.19 of the Criminal Code, and counseling a person to deliver, place, discharge, or detonate an explosive with the intent to cause death or serious bodily injury, contrary to Section 431.2 of the Criminal Code, which offense was not committed and did thereby commit an offense contrary to Section 464A of the Criminal Code. No further details will be provided due to the age of the individual. A second individual, an adult male, has also been arrested. To give some background, the RCMP received credible information of a potential terrorist threat in late December 2018. We immediately started a robust national security criminal investigation, and the RCMP was able to gather sufficient evidence for the Attorney General to approve laying Section 83.19 charges against the individual. As I alluded earlier, we are mindful of the impacts that the arrests have on the community. I would also like to once again assure you the RCMP immediately took the necessary steps to ensure public safety. While these are significant charges, there was no imminent threat to the public or to infrastructure. Many of you may have wondered about the airplane reported over Kingston recently. We can confirm that RCMP air assets were involved in this investigation. Investigations of this nature are extremely complex and resource intensive, as the RCMP must balance the collection of evidence with maintaining public safety. I can confirm at this time that the RCMP has required over 300 resources to support this investigation. Investigations of this nature require extensive cooperation and collaboration with our domestic and international partners. I would like to acknowledge our partners in this investigation, notably the Federal Bureau of Investigation, whose continued collaboration with the RCMP on operational files such as these contribute to the safe and secure border. Here in Canada, I'd like to emphasize and support and thank also the Kingston Police, Ontario Provincial Police, Canadian Border Services Agency, Canadian Security Intelligence Services, Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre of Canada. We also encourage the public to remain vigilant and to report any information or terrorism or related suspicious activities to the National Security Information Network at 1-800-420-5805 or by contacting the police in their community.
It's a quiet, chilly day here in Kingston, Ontario, a city that is still buzzing as a result of law enforcement raids that police say prevented a teenager from launching an alleged terror attack. The FBI tipped a Canadian law enforcement to the alleged plot, which the RCMP are being tight-lipped about, declining to give any information about a target or ties to known terror groups. What we do know is this was a massive operation involving multiple law enforcement agencies.
Look, 300 people. Some of them, I mean, in a plane on overtime at night. Like, this was a very expensive, exhaustive investigation that we end up with one minor who's being charged as the main suspect, who's a minor who's apparently cooked up this fairly comprehensive plot.
A teenager who cannot be identified under the Youth Criminal Justice Act was charged with knowingly facilitating a terrorist activity. The other person arrested was 20-year-old Hussam al-Zahabi, a Syrian who immigrated to Canada with his family 2 years ago. His father told Global News he had nothing to do with any plot, and while he could be charged at a later date, police declined to lay any charges. Muslim leaders are worried if it turns out he truly had nothing to do with this, his name will be forever connected to this story.
The RCMP should be careful of what they are doing, but they say that they have a good reason, and I trust them.
What we have often, and this is not just in this particular case, people end up losing jobs. They're unable to get other jobs because oftentimes employers will Google their name, and that is a serious problem. We don't have a solution for that. I don't have a solution for it, except, as I said, to recommend that as a society we need to adopt the view that if you haven't been found guilty, then you are not guilty.
And whatever happens with this case, it will be a while before we have answers to all our questions, leaving Kingston residents to wonder what could have happened and how it was all avoided.
Do you think we should tighten the rules governing our rules for letting in refugees? Let's bear in mind that Canada is one of the safest countries in the world. Regardless where we are in our cities or communities, we can feel safe, and that is to a great extent because we have police and information services, intelligence services that do exceptional work every day to keep us safe. In fact, we would like to thank the police and intelligence services and security services that have done such stellar work this week. We are a strong and resilient country. That is because of Canadian strength and courage. We are a country that welcomes diversity, but those who try to divide us through fear and violence will not succeed because we in Canada are stronger than that.
A country that is one of the safest in the world. Wherever you are in this country, in your homes, in your towns, in your communities, we are safe. And that is something that we highlight right across the country. And one of the reasons we are this way is because of the extraordinary work that our police services, that our intelligence agencies do day in and day out to keep Canadians safe. I want to thank them all for the hard work that they've done this week, as we've seen. It's also important to highlight that anyone who chooses to divide Canadians against each other, to use fear or violence to threaten our society, will fail because Canadians are strong and resilient, and we lean on each other when we're there for each other.
The Justice of the Peace had a very difficult job to do in this situation, balancing very serious allegations against the nuanced system of bail that we have in place in this country for young persons.
After a 3-day bail hearing, the youth suspected of terrorism-related activity was released to responsible persons who the accused must be with at all times under strict conditions.
At the end of the day, Justice of the Peace determined in this case that the risk to the public, among other things, could be managed with the young person's release.
There is a publication ban placed on this case, and Global News cannot report most of what was heard in court. But this is what we can report. The teen was arrested following high-profile RCMP raids in 2 Kingston neighborhoods on January 24th. The RCMP alleges the youth facilitated terrorism activity and tried to get someone to detonate a bomb. Authorities say they swooped in before a target was chosen. The youth's identity is protected under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. Since his arrest, 2 new federal charges were laid against the teen on March 25th for allegedly making or possessing any explosive and for taking action to cause an explosion. A provincial charge of uttering threats was also added. The youth will be back in court on April 30th. Neil McCartney, Global News, Kingston.
Kingston teen suspected of terrorist activity arrested for allegedly breaching bail conditions. The Kingston teen facing numerous terrorism charges was arrested over the weekend for allegedly breaching the conditions of his bail. The teen was arrested on Sunday and is facing a charge for allegedly breaching his release conditions as well as a mischief charge. The reasons for the new charges are protected under a publication ban. The youth was released from custody on April 3rd after a 3-day bail hearing. The Justice of the Peace denied the youth's bail originally, but the teen was released on a special condition reserved for youths to 2 responsible persons. A responsible person release differs from a regular release to a surety since the responsible person could face jail time if the teen does not abide by the conditions of his release. The teen was released on April 3rd with the following conditions. The youth will be required to wear a GPS system ankle bracelet that will be installed and monitored by the RCMP. The youth must attend court when required. The youth must be with at least one of the responsible persons at all times. The youth must not be in possession of any electronic communication devices that can access the internet. The youth must not have any computer, smartphone, tablet, or any such device capable of accessing the internet. The youth must not be in possession of weapons of any kind. The youth must not have possession of explosive devices or anything that could cause bodily harm or threaten any person. The youth must make himself amenable to follow the rules of the residence of the responsible person. He must participate in educational programming arranged by the responsible person. The youth must remain in the province of Ontario at all times. The youth must refrain from any communication with Hussam al-Zahabi. The youth may only access the internet for educational purposes on prior consent from police. The youth must not be in possession of a passport. The specific condition he is accused of breaching is also protected under a publication ban. He was originally arrested on January 24 during RCMP raids in the city for allegedly facilitating terrorist activity and counseling someone to plant a bomb. Since his arrest, he was handed 3 more charges, 2 federal charges for allegedly possessing explosive materials, and for taking action to cause an explosion, as well as a provincial charge for allegedly uttering threats. Just over a week after the youth was released, the Crown asked a youth court judge for a new bail hearing. The judge had delayed the decision on the Crown's request for several weeks, but since the youth has been charged again, according to Simon Bories, the Youth's Defense Counsel, a new bail hearing will automatically take place. He will appear again in court on April 30th. A date for his new bail hearing has not yet been set.